The message arrived while I was packing swimsuits. I still remember the exact sound my phone made. One simple notification. One sentence that changed everything. Emily, we've decided the trip will be adults and cousins only. Your kids aren't included this year. Hope you understand. I stared at the screen for a long time. I honestly thought I'd read it wrong. Because what did cousins only even mean? My children were their cousins. I read it again. Then again. The words didn't change. My daughter Lily walked into the room carrying her little pink backpack. Mom! I looked up so fast I almost dropped my phone. Can I bring Mr. Pickles? She held up her worn-out stuffed bunny. I smiled automatically. Of course. She grinned. I knew you'd say yes. Then she skipped away. She had no idea that 10 seconds earlier someone had quietly decided she wasn't welcome anymore. I felt something heavy settle in my chest. Not anger. Not yet. Confusion. Because my sister, Amanda, wasn't cruel. At least, I didn't think she was. Family vacations had been our tradition for almost 15 years. Every August we'd rent a lake house somewhere within driving distance. The adults cooked. The kids swam until sunset. Dad grilled burgers. Mom organized ridiculous board game tournaments. Every year looked almost identical. And everyone loved it. When Lily was born, Amanda cried before I did. When my son Noah came along 3 years later, she bought him matching pajamas with her own son, Carter. She always called them the twins. Not because they looked alike. Because she insisted they'd grow up inseparable. So why were my children suddenly excluded? I called her immediately. She answered on the 4th ring. Hey! Her voice sounded strangely cheerful. What's this message? Silence. Amanda. She sighed. I knew you'd call. You told me my kids aren't invited. It's complicated. No, I said quietly. It's actually very simple. She hesitated, then finally said it. We had to cut people. So you cut 2 children? It isn't like that. It sounds exactly like that. She lowered her voice. Melissa doesn't want too many kids there. I blinked. Melissa! My sister-in-law. I know who Melissa is. Melissa had married Amanda's husband's younger brother 2 years earlier. She wasn't related to me. She wasn't related to my parents. She wasn't related to anyone organizing the vacation. So Melissa decides who my children are allowed to vacation with? It's just easier. Easier for who? Another pause. You wouldn't understand. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because sometimes your brain laughs when your heart doesn't know what else to do. I think I understand perfectly. That night I drove to my parents' house. Dad answered the door holding a watering can. Hey, sweetheart. He smiled, then immediately frowned. What's wrong? I handed him my phone. He adjusted his glasses and read Amanda's message. His expression slowly changed. First confusion, then disappointment, then something that looked almost embarrassed. You didn't know? He shook his head. No. Mom came into the hallway. What happened? Dad silently handed her the phone. She read it twice. Oh. That tiny word carried 100 emotions. I thought everyone was going. So did I. Mom rubbed her forehead. I'll talk to Amanda. I already did. What did she say? Apparently Melissa made the guest list. Dad frowned. Melissa! Exactly. He looked genuinely irritated. Since when does Melissa make decisions for this family? I'd like to know that too. Mom walked into the kitchen without saying anything. I could hear cabinet doors opening, closing, opening again. That's what Mom did when she was stressed. She cleaned. Dad sat beside me. Don't worry. I wasn't. You look worried. I look hurt. His face softened. I'm sorry. I nodded. I know. Over the next few days, things became even stranger. Nobody talked about the vacation in the family group chat anymore. Amanda suddenly stopped replying to messages. My brother Josh changed the subject every time I asked about cabin details. Something wasn't right. Then Noah accidentally figured it out before I did. He was 7, old enough to notice things, young enough to ask painful questions without realizing it. Mom! Yeah. Why is Carter talking about the water park? I looked over. What water park? He said we're all going next month. I froze. He talked to you. On Roblox. My stomach tightened. What exactly did he say? He said they're staying in a giant cabin and everybody gets matching shirts. Everybody. Except. Oh. Noah looked confused. Are we getting blue shirts too? I forced a smile. I don't know yet. He nodded, then went back to building Lego towers. Kids move on quickly. Parents don't. That night I cried in the shower. Not because of Amanda. Because I knew what was coming. Soon I'd have to explain to my children why every cousin in the family went on vacation without them. How do you explain that? How do you tell a 6-year-old little girl that someone simply decided she wasn't worth inviting? 3 days later, Amanda finally called. I've been thinking. Good. I don't want us fighting. Neither do I. So can we just move on? I nearly dropped the phone. Move on. Yeah. You excluded my children. It wasn't personal. That's literally impossible. She sounded frustrated. Emily, why are you making this such a huge deal? I sat down slowly, because suddenly everything became crystal clear. She genuinely didn't think she'd done anything wrong. I'm making it a huge deal because they're my children. They're just kids. Exactly. They were just kids, which made what she'd done even worse. I ended the call. Not dramatically. Not angrily. I simply hung up. There was nothing left to say. That weekend my husband Daniel found me staring at travel websites. He placed 2 mugs of coffee on the table. You've been on that page for 20 minutes. I know. What are you thinking? I turned the laptop toward him. Pictures of beaches filled the screen. White sand. Turquoise water. Families laughing together. I don't want the kids remembering the vacation they weren't invited to. He nodded slowly. What do you want them to remember instead? I looked back at the photos. I want them to remember the best trip of their lives. He smiled. Now he understood. So what? We make our own tradition. I felt something shift inside me. For the first time all week. Hope. Real hope. Not pretending everything was okay. Building something better. What if we leave the same week? Daniel grinned. Petty. A little. I like it. I laughed for the first time in days. What if we don't just go somewhere? He leaned closer. What are you thinking? I clicked another page. Then another. And another. One destination after another appeared on the screen. Finally, I found it. I whispered. Oh. Daniel stared. No way. Oh yes. He looked at the price. Then at me. Emily. We can afford it. We've been saving for years. I know. This would be bigger than the lake trip. Much bigger. He smiled slowly. I think your sister might accidentally regret her decision. I closed the laptop. No. He raised an eyebrow. She won't regret excluding us. I stood up and looked toward the backyard where Lily and Noah were chasing bubbles through the grass. She'll regret underestimating us. The next morning, before anyone in my family knew what we were planning, I picked up the phone and made a reservation that would change everything. Not just our vacation. Our family. Because while Amanda was busy deciding who deserved a seat at her table, I had just booked a trip they couldn't compete with. And I hadn't even told anyone where we were going. Not yet. The confirmation email landed in my inbox at exactly 9:17 that morning. I opened it 3 times just to make sure it was real. The destination, the hotel, the excursions, every detail we talked about the night before was there in black and white. Daniel leaned over my shoulder. So, it's official. He smiled. We're actually doing this. I nodded. For the first time since Amanda's message, I felt excited instead of hurt. This trip wasn't about proving anything. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. It was about giving Lily and Noah a memory that no one could take away. Still, a tiny part of me knew Amanda would lose her mind if she ever found out where we were going, which was exactly why I wasn't telling anyone. Not yet. That afternoon, Lily climbed into my lap while I answered work emails. Mom! Yes, sweetheart. Are we still going somewhere? I looked at her carefully. She had no idea she'd been excluded. Noah hadn't told her. Neither had Carter. Children can be wonderfully oblivious. We are. Where? It's a surprise. Her eyes widened. Like Disney. I laughed. Maybe. She gasped so dramatically that Daniel started laughing from the kitchen. Did you hear that? She shouted. Dad! Mom said maybe Disney. Daniel looked at me with a grin. I heard. He caught my eye for a split second. Neither of us corrected her. For the next 2 weeks, our house became mission control. Every evening, after the kids went to bed, we planned. Flights, Hotels, restaurant reservations, activities. Daniel built spreadsheets. I made packing lists. It felt strangely exciting, like we were planning an adventure instead of escaping disappointment. Then, one night, Daniel asked the question I'd been avoiding. Should we tell your parents? I stopped typing. I don't know. They're going to find out eventually. I know. They've been caught in the middle. I sighed. I don't want them choosing sides. They probably already feel like they have to. That was the problem. My parents hated conflict. If there were two sides, they'd always try to stand exactly in the middle, even when standing in the middle meant ignoring something that was obviously wrong. The following Sunday, Mom invited everyone over for lunch. I almost didn't go. Daniel squeezed my hand before we walked inside. We're here for your parents. I know. Not Amanda. I know. The smell of roast chicken filled the house. Dad was setting the table. Josh was helping outside. Everything looked perfectly normal. Until Amanda arrived. She hugged Mom. She kissed Dad on the cheek. Then she looked at me. Hi. Hi. That was it. No apology. No awkward conversation. Nothing. As if excluding my children had been no more significant than forgetting to bring dessert. Lunch was painfully polite. Everyone talked around the obvious issue. Josh discussed baseball. Dad complained about rising gas prices. Mom kept asking if anyone wanted more potatoes. Amanda laughed at jokes. I answered questions. Daniel kept changing the subject whenever silence became uncomfortable. Then Carter smiled at Noah. I can't wait for the cabin. The room went completely quiet. Amanda's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Noah looked confused. What cabin? Carter immediately realized he'd said something wrong. He looked at his mother. Amanda jumped in too quickly. Oh, honey, finish your lunch. No, Noah said innocently. What cabin? Every adult at the table suddenly became fascinated by their food. I felt my heartbeat speeding up. Because this was the moment I'd been dreading. Noah looked at me. Mom! I swallowed. Before I could answer, Amanda spoke. It's just a little family trip. Noah smiled. Cool. Are we going too? Silence. The kind that physically hurts. Amanda looked at me. Waiting for me to explain her decision. To protect her from the consequences. I wasn't going to do it. Not this time. I took Noah's hand. No, buddy. His smile faded. Why? I looked directly at Amanda. Because your aunt decided this trip wasn't for everyone. The room instantly became tense. Amanda's face hardened. Emily! No. I kept my voice calm. He asked a question. Lily looked up. Are we staying home? Before I could answer, Daniel smiled. No. Both kids turned toward him. We're going on our own vacation. Their eyes lit up. Really? Yep. When? Soon. Where? Daniel looked at me. I smiled. It's still a surprise. Within seconds the kids were laughing again, guessing places. The beach. The mountains. A castle. A spaceship. Even Dad chuckled. The tension eased. But Amanda kept staring at me. As everyone helped clean up afterward, Amanda cornered me on the back porch. So that's how you're playing this? I folded my arms. Playing what? You embarrassed me. I answered my son's question. You made me look like the bad guy. I stared at her. You handle that part yourself. Her jaw tightened. You always have to be dramatic. I almost laughed. You excluded 2 children. It wasn't personal. There it is again. It wasn't. Then explain it. She looked away. I already did. No. You blamed Melissa. Because it was Melissa. Then why didn't you tell her no? Amanda didn't answer. Instead, she looked out across Mom's garden. Finally, she said quietly, You don't understand what it's like. What? Trying to keep everyone happy. I shook my head. That's not what you were doing. What do you mean? You weren't trying to keep everyone happy. I stepped closer. You were trying to keep one person happy. And you chose her over my kids. Her face flushed. For just a second, I saw guilt. Real guilt. Then it disappeared. I have to think about my husband's family too. And I have to think about my children. There was nothing else to say. I walked back inside. That evening Mom called. I wish today had gone differently. So do I. I talked to Amanda. And Mom hesitated. She says Melissa felt overwhelmed by having too many children around. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How many kids are going? I think. She paused. 8. I blinked. My 2 children made the difference between manageable and overwhelming. I don't know. I leaned back in my chair. Something wasn't adding up. Not even close. A few days later, the truth started slipping through the cracks. Josh called me while driving home from work. You busy? No. I probably shouldn't tell you this. My stomach tightened. What? I heard Amanda talking. About the trip. I waited. Josh sighed. Melissa didn't actually ask to exclude Lily and Noah. I sat upright. What? She suggested limiting the number of guests. So Amanda made the guest list herself. I felt my chest tighten. What are you saying? I'm saying Melissa never mentioned your kids. I closed my eyes. I knew it. There was more. My grip tightened on the phone. What more? Apparently Amanda thought Carter would have more fun if he wasn't competing with Noah all week. For a second I couldn't speak. Competing? Competing for what? Josh answered before I asked. You know how Grandpa always takes the boys fishing. Yeah. And how everyone says Noah is fearless. Yeah. Carter hates that. Pieces started falling together. Too many pieces. Dad adored all his grandchildren. But Noah was adventurous. He climbed trees, caught fish, learned to kayak at 6. Every year Dad spent extra time teaching him something new. Not because he loved Noah more. Because Noah constantly asked. Apparently someone had noticed. And gotten jealous. Not Carter. Amanda. Josh continued. I think Amanda wanted one vacation where Carter got all the attention. I stared out the window. The betrayal suddenly felt much bigger. This wasn't about numbers. Or cabins. Or Melissa. My children hadn't been excluded because there wasn't enough room. They'd been excluded because someone wanted her son to shine without them around. And she'd lied to everyone about why. That night I told Daniel everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he slowly shook his head. I was hoping there was another explanation. So was I. There isn't. I looked at our vacation folder, sitting on the kitchen table. The passports. The itinerary. The tickets. Everything was ready. Daniel reached for my hand. Do you still want to keep the destination a secret? I smiled. Oh, absolutely. He raised an eyebrow. You've changed your mind about something. I have. What? I don't want revenge anymore. No. I looked toward the hallway where Lily and Noah were asleep. I want perspective. What does that mean? It means while they're all standing at that lake arguing over cabins and favorites. I smiled to myself. Our kids are going to wake up somewhere they've only ever dreamed about. Daniel laughed softly. I can't wait to see Amanda's face. I picked up the travel folder and carefully slipped it into the safe. Neither can I. Because Amanda still believed she'd taken something away from my children. She had no idea. She'd accidentally given us something far better. And in less than 3 weeks, the entire family was going to find out exactly what that was. The first person to find out wasn't Amanda. It was my dad. Completely by accident. 3 days before we were scheduled to leave, he stopped by the house with a toolbox. Our back gate had been sticking for weeks, and despite Daniel insisting he could fix it, Dad refused to let his son-in-law make it worse. I was upstairs finishing laundry when I heard him call out, Emily! Yeah, what's this? My stomach dropped. I hurried downstairs. The travel folder I'd hidden in the safe was sitting on the kitchen counter. Daniel had taken it out while comparing passport expiration dates and forgotten to put it back. Dad wasn't snooping. It was lying right there. He held up 2 luggage tags. Each had a different airline logo than the one we normally used. You're flying. I smiled. We are. His eyebrows lifted. I thought you were renting a beach house somewhere. So did everyone else. He looked at the folder again, then slowly opened it. His eyes widened. You've got to be kidding me. I laughed. That's the reaction I was hoping for. He stared at the itinerary. He looked at me. Emily, this isn't a vacation. I know. It's the trip your kids have been talking about for years. I know. Dad sat down heavily. When did you book all this? The morning after Amanda called. He shook his head in disbelief. You planned all this in 3 weeks. Actually, I smiled. We've been saving for almost 4 years. His expression changed. You were already planning it? I nodded. Daniel walked in carrying a tape measure. We wanted to surprise the kids next summer. Dad looked between us. So Amanda accidentally pushed the surprise forward. Pretty much. He laughed. A genuine laugh. The first I'd heard from him in weeks. I can't decide if this is the best coincidence I've ever seen or karma. Before he left, Dad became serious. Can I give you one piece of advice? Always. When everyone finds out. He paused. Don't rub it in. I wasn't planning to. I know. He placed a hand on my shoulder. The best revenge isn't making someone feel small. He smiled warmly. It's showing your children how to keep living after someone disappoints them. I hugged him. I'll remember that. I meant it. The next evening, we finally told Lily and Noah. Daniel carried a large gift box into the living room. Both kids immediately abandoned the cartoon they were watching. What's that? A surprise. Lily bounced on the couch. I knew it. Noah looked suspicious. Is it Christmas? No. My birthday? No. Then why are there presents? Daniel winked. Open it. They ripped off the wrapping paper together. Inside were 4 matching hoodies. Across the front, in bright blue letters, were the words, Adventure Crew. Lily looked confused. We all have the same one. Yep. Noah reached deeper into the box. There were sunglasses, travel journals, tiny cameras, then an envelope. I nodded toward it. Open that. Lily carefully unfolded the paper inside. She frowned. I don't know what this says. Noah grabbed it. He could read a little better. Air. He stopped. Plane. Daniel smiled. Keep going. Noah's eyes became enormous. Are we? He looked at us. We're flying somewhere. I nodded. Yes. Where? I reached behind the couch and pulled out a globe. Lily immediately spun it. So far away. I placed my finger on one tiny island. Their mouths fell open. No way. Really? We're actually going there? I laughed as they both started screaming. Lily threw herself into my arms. Noah tackled Daniel. For the next 10 minutes, the house echoed with nothing but laughter. That moment alone made every painful conversation worth it. Meanwhile, Amanda's vacation plans weren't going nearly as smoothly. I learned that from Mom. She called while I was packing swimsuits. Can you believe this? What happened? The lake house accidentally double-booked. I stopped folding clothes. What? They've moved everyone to a different property. Is it nice? Mom hesitated. It's never a good sign. Smaller. How much smaller? There are fewer bedrooms. I almost laughed. So after excluding my kids, because there supposedly wasn't enough room. Mom sighed. Now there actually isn't enough room. The irony was almost unbelievable. 2 days later Josh texted me. You busy? Not really. Amanda's furious. Why? He sent a laughing emoji. She's sharing a room with Carter now because Melissa demanded the master suite. I stared at the screen. Apparently pleasing Melissa still wasn't enough. The morning we left, I turned my phone onto airplane mode before we even reached the airport. Not because I wanted to ignore anyone. Because I wanted 1 week where my attention belonged entirely to my family. No guilt. No drama. No arguments. Just us. As we walked through the terminal, Lily squeezed my hand. I've never been on a plane. I know. Are you scared? A little. She smiled. I'm not. No. No. She looked up at the enormous airplanes outside the window. I think clouds look soft. Daniel chuckled. Don't tell her. Tell me what? They're not. She gasped. You've ruined clouds. The flight was everything I'd hoped. Noah pressed his face against the window during takeoff. Lily spent half an hour making friends with the flight attendant. Daniel secretly took photos of both of them. No one mentioned Amanda. No one mentioned the family trip. For the first time in weeks, we felt free. When we finally arrived, the kids couldn't believe their eyes. The water was impossibly clear. Palm trees lined the shore. Music drifted through the open-air lobby. The hotel staff greeted the children by name and handed them little welcome gifts. Lily whispered, Mom! Yeah, this place smells happy. I laughed so hard I nearly cried. Because somehow, she was right. Our first 3 days were perfect. We built sandcastles, snorkeled over coral reefs, watched sea turtles swim beside us. Noah declared he was going to become a marine biologist. Lily decided she wanted to live on the beach forever. Daniel and I stayed up every evening after the kids fell asleep, sitting on our balcony, listening to the waves. Neither of us had felt this peaceful in years. Then, on the fourth morning, I turned my phone back on. 38 missed messages, 12 voicemails, 14 text messages. The family group chat had exploded. At first, I thought something terrible had happened. Maybe someone had gotten hurt. Then I opened Amanda's messages. "Where are you?" "Mom said you're on vacation." "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Another message arrived while I was reading. "Emily, answer your phone." Then another. "Is it true you're overseas?" I looked at Daniel. "I think someone finally found out." He smiled without looking up from his coffee. "Took them long enough." I opened the family group chat. Mom had accidentally posted one of the photos I'd sent her privately. It was a picture of Lily and Noah standing on a white sand beach at sunset, both wearing their matching Adventure Crew hoodies. Underneath, Mom had written, "So happy these two are finally getting the vacation they deserve." She'd meant nothing by it, but everyone had seen it. Amanda, Melissa, Josh, every cousin, every aunt, every uncle. Within minutes, relatives started asking where we were. Then someone recognized the resort. Then someone looked up the price. And suddenly, the conversation changed. No one was talking about the lake anymore. They were talking about us. Amanda called 3 more times. I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to punish her. Because I was sitting on the beach with my children, helping them bury Daniel in the sand. That moment mattered more than any argument. But later that evening, curiosity got the better of me. I listened to her voicemail. At first, she sounded annoyed, then confused, then something else. "Emily, why didn't you tell us you were planning something like this?" I frowned. The next sentence made my stomach tighten. "Carter won't stop asking why he isn't there with Noah." I looked over at my son. He was teaching another little boy how to skip stones across the water. Laughing. Completely unaware. Amanda had wanted Carter to have one vacation without Noah. Instead, her son had spent half the trip asking where his cousin was. And that wasn't even the biggest surprise waiting for her. Because back at the lake house, a secret she'd been hiding from everyone was about to come crashing into the open. And this time, she wouldn't be able to blame Melissa. I almost deleted Amanda's voicemail. Part of me wanted to stay completely disconnected until we got home. But something about her voice bothered me. She didn't sound angry anymore. She sounded nervous. That wasn't like Amanda. She was the oldest sibling, the planner, the organizer, the one who always believed she could fix everything with enough effort. Hearing uncertainty in her voice felt strange. I slipped my phone back into my beach bag. "Everything okay?" Daniel asked. I looked at Lily chasing crabs along the shoreline with Noah. "They're finally dealing with the consequences." He nodded. "And I don't know if I care." For the first time in weeks. I meant it. Back at the lake house, things were apparently falling apart. I didn't know the details until Josh called that evening. "I hope I'm not interrupting." I laughed. "I'm sitting on a balcony, overlooking the ocean. I officially hate you." "I know." He chuckled before becoming serious. "You'll never guess what happened." "I probably won't." "Dad found out." My smile disappeared. "Found out what?" "The real reason your kids weren't invited." I slowly sat down. "How?" Josh sighed. "Because Carter accidentally told Grandpa." According to Josh, it happened after breakfast. Dad had taken all the grandchildren down to the dock. Just like he always did. Fishing poles, orange life jackets, juice boxes. The same tradition we'd had since childhood. Except this year, 2 little faces were missing. Dad tried to keep the mood light. He showed the kids how to tie fishing knots. He helped Emma untangle her line. Then he asked Carter, "You miss Noah?" Without thinking, Carter answered honestly. "Mom said this was supposed to be my special trip." Dad smiled. "I'm sure every trip is special." Carter shook his head. "No. This one. The one without Noah." Dad stopped baiting his hook. "What do you mean?" Carter shrugged. "Mom said Noah always gets Grandpa's attention." My heart sank. Josh continued. Dad didn't say another word. "I bet." He packed up the fishing gear and walked back to the cabin. I knew that walk. Dad only went quiet when something hurt him deeply. Later that afternoon, Dad confronted Amanda. No yelling. No insults. Just questions. "So?" Amanda looked up from her phone. "So? Did you tell Carter this vacation was about getting my attention? Amanda apparently froze. No. Carter says you did. He misunderstood. Dad kept his voice calm. Then help me understand. According to Josh, everyone in the cabin stopped talking. Even the younger kids sensed something serious was happening. Amanda crossed her arms. I just wanted Carter to have his own time. Dad nodded slowly. So instead of asking me to spend more time with him, she didn't answer. You removed Noah. Silence. Mom later admitted she'd never seen Dad look so disappointed. Not angry. Disappointed. There's a difference. Anger burns. Disappointment lingers. Then came the question Amanda wasn't expecting. Dad asked quietly, Did you ever stop to think about how Lily would feel? Amanda blinked. What? You keep talking about Noah. What about your niece? Amanda looked confused. Dad continued, You didn't just exclude one child. You excluded a little girl who thinks her aunt loves her. No one said anything. Because everyone suddenly realized something awful. In every conversation, every argument, every excuse, Lily had barely been mentioned. She'd simply become collateral damage. Josh lowered his voice. Emily! Yeah, Dad cried. I closed my eyes. What? He went outside after the conversation. I followed him. Josh paused. He kept saying the same thing. What? How do you explain this to a little girl? Tears filled my eyes. Because that had been my first thought too. Meanwhile, the vacation itself wasn't going well. Not because of bad weather. Because the atmosphere had become unbearable. Melissa and Amanda barely spoke. The kids argued over bedrooms. The cabin's air conditioning failed one afternoon. 2 cousins got food poisoning after eating at a roadside seafood place. Mom developed a migraine. Everyone was exhausted. The perfect family vacation Amanda had fought so hard to protect was miserable. Josh laughed. You know what's funny? What? They keep comparing everything to your pictures. What do you mean? You know those beach photos Mom posted? Yeah. Every time something goes wrong, somebody says. He laughed again. Well, Emily's family seems to be having fun. I couldn't help smiling. Not because they were unhappy. Because nobody had compared vacations until they started doing it themselves. The next morning, Daniel and I took the kids on a snorkeling excursion. Halfway through, Noah pointed excitedly into the water. Dolphins! Sure enough, a small pod swam beside the boat. The guide smiled. You're lucky. They don't usually come this close. Lily clapped so hard, she nearly dropped her goggles. One dolphin surfaced just a few feet away. For a few magical seconds, it felt like time stopped. Daniel reached for my hand. This? What? This is what they'll remember. Not Amanda. Not exclusion. Not disappointment. This. That evening I finally called Mom. She answered immediately. Oh, sweetheart. You okay? I am. You. There was a long pause. I'm embarrassed. Mom. I should have stopped this. It wasn't your decision. I knew something felt wrong. Her voice cracked. But I convinced myself Amanda had a reason. I stayed quiet. She continued. I failed those children. No. I did. You believed your daughter. I believed the wrong daughter. That sentence hurt more than she probably intended. Because I knew she meant it differently. Still, it lingered. Before hanging up, Mom quietly asked, Can I tell you something? Always. Your father canceled next year's lake trip. What? He said if every grandchild isn't welcome. She paused. Then there won't be another family vacation. I stared at the ocean. He actually said that? Word for word. When I told Daniel, he smiled. Your dad finally picked a side? I shook my head. No. What? He picked the children. There was an important difference. The following afternoon, my phone rang again. Amanda. This time. I answered. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, she whispered, I owe you an apology. I waited. I'm sorry. Still, I said nothing. She took a shaky breath. I lied. I know. I blamed Melissa. I know. I convinced myself it was the best decision. I know. Then came the sentence I never expected. I was jealous. I frowned. Of Noah. No. She laughed bitterly. Of you. I didn't understand. What? You make parenting look. She searched for the words. Easy. I almost laughed. You think parenting is easy for me? No. But everyone always talks about how patient you are. Emily handles everything. Emily's kids are so polite. Emily always stays calm. I listened quietly. I started feeling like I was always being compared to you. I had never once compared us. Not once. She continued. When Dad got excited teaching Noah to fish, I didn't see a grandfather spending time with his grandson. I saw another reminder that I wasn't enough. I slowly rubbed my forehead. So you punish my children. Silence. I know. Do you? I do now. For a moment, I almost forgave her. Almost. Then I remembered Lily asking, "Are we staying home?" That memory settled the question for me. Forgiveness wasn't the problem. Trust was. I appreciate the apology. Amanda sniffled. But you didn't hurt me the most. She knew where this was going. You hurt two children who adored you. She began crying. Real crying. Not dramatic. Not defensive. Just broken. I know. I don't know how to fix it. I answered honestly. I don't know either. That evening I finally called Mom. She answered immediately. Oh, sweetheart. You okay? I am. You. There was a long pause. I'm embarrassed. Mom. I should have stopped this. It wasn't your decision. I knew something felt wrong. Her voice cracked. But I convinced myself Amanda had a reason. I stayed quiet. She continued. I failed those children. No. I did. You believed your daughter. I believed the wrong daughter. That sentence hurt more than she probably intended, because I knew she meant it differently. Still, it lingered. Before hanging up, Mom quietly asked, "Can I tell you something?" "Always. Your father canceled next year's lake trip." "What?" "He said if every grandchild isn't welcome." She paused. "Then there won't be another family vacation." I stared at the ocean. He actually said that? Word for word. When I told Daniel, he smiled. Your dad finally picked a side? I shook my head. No. What? He picked the children. There was an important difference. The following afternoon, my phone rang again. Amanda. This time. I answered. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, she whispered, "I owe you an apology." I waited. "I'm sorry." Still, I said nothing. She took a shaky breath. "I lied. I know. I blamed Melissa. I know. I convinced myself it was the best decision. I know." Then came the sentence I never expected. "I was jealous." I frowned. "Of Noah." "No." She laughed bitterly. "Of you." I didn't understand. "What?" "You make parenting look." She searched for the words. "Easy." I almost laughed. "You think parenting is easy for me?" "No. But everyone always talks about how patient you are. Emily handles everything. Emily's kids are so polite. Emily always stays calm." I listened quietly. I started feeling like I was always being compared to you. I had never once compared us. Not once. She continued. When Dad got excited teaching Noah to fish, I didn't see a grandfather spending time with his grandson. I saw another reminder that I wasn't enough. I slowly rubbed my forehead. "So you punish my children." Silence. "I know. Do you?" "I do now." For a moment, I almost forgave her. Almost. Then I remembered Lily asking, "Are we staying home?" That memory settled the question for me. Forgiveness wasn't the problem. Trust was. I appreciate the apology. Amanda sniffled. But you didn't hurt me the most." She knew where this was going. "You hurt two children who adored you." She began crying. Real crying. Not dramatic. Not defensive. Just broken. "I know. I don't know how to fix it." I answered honestly. I don't know either. Dinner itself was quiet. Nobody mentioned the vacations. Nobody brought up the argument. Nobody wanted to be the first. Then Dad stood. He tapped his water glass with a spoon. I'd like everyone's attention. The room fell silent. "I've been thinking a lot." He looked around the table. "When your mother and I started these family trips," he smiled toward Mom, "we had one goal. To give our children memories we couldn't afford when you were young." Everyone listened. We never intended for anyone to compete. His eyes settled briefly on Amanda. We never intended for anyone to feel more important than anyone else. Amanda lowered her head. Dad continued. So, he reached into his pocket and unfolded a piece of paper. I've made some changes. Nobody interrupted. Not even the children. Starting next summer, he smiled. There will be no single organizer. Amanda looked up. There will be no guest list. She swallowed. There will be no person deciding who belongs. He looked directly at every grandchild. If you're family, his voice became firm. You are invited. The room remained perfectly still. And if the location can't fit everyone, he folded the paper. We choose another location. Mom reached for his hand. He squeezed it gently. No child in this family will ever again wonder why everyone else got invited except them. I looked at Lily. She was coloring quietly beside Noah. She had no idea those words were meant for her, and I was grateful for that. Amanda slowly stood. Dad! He looked at her. I'm sorry. Nobody moved. I know. His answer wasn't cold. It was tired. She walked around the table until she reached me. I honestly didn't know what she was going to do. Then, she knelt beside Lily. My daughter looked up with a smile. Hi, Aunt Amanda. Amanda immediately started crying. Real tears, not polite ones. She gently took Lily's little hand. I owe you the biggest apology. Lily frowned. For what? Amanda looked at me before answering. For hurting your feelings. Lily tilted her head. You didn't. Amanda blinked. What? You just couldn't come on vacation with us. The room became completely silent. Amanda looked confused. Lily continued smiling. We had the best trip ever. She turned toward Noah. Tell her. Noah didn't hesitate. We saw dolphins. And turtles. And fish. And Dad got buried in sand. Everyone laughed. Even Dad. Even Josh. Amanda covered her face. Because in that moment, she realized something. The children weren't carrying bitterness. The adults were. Later that evening, while the kids played in the backyard, Amanda and I finally spoke alone. I don't expect forgiveness. I leaned against the porch railing. I know. I've replayed everything 100 times. So have I. I was embarrassed. About the pictures. I nodded. I figured. No. She shook her head. Not because your vacation was expensive. She looked toward our children. Because every picture showed something mine didn't. I frowned. What? Peace. I stayed quiet. She wiped her eyes. Carter kept asking why we couldn't stop arguing. That hit me harder than I expected. I spent the whole vacation trying to prove I made the right decision. She laughed bitterly. And all I did was make everyone miserable. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, she asked quietly, Can we ever fix this? I answered honestly. Not today. She nodded. I understand. But, she looked at me hopefully. Maybe someday. Over the next several months. Things changed. Not overnight. Trust doesn't return because someone says sorry. It returns because they keep showing up. Amanda started coming to Noah's soccer games. She never missed one. She helped Lily build a model volcano for the school science fair. When Daniel had to travel for work, she showed up with dinner without being asked. She stopped trying to explain what she'd done. She simply tried to do better. That mattered. Then Christmas arrived, our first holiday after everything happened. Mom insisted everyone spend the night. The house looked exactly like it had when we were kids. Too many cookies. Too many presents. Too many people squeezed around one table. Dad disappeared for a few minutes after dinner. When he returned, he carried a large framed photograph. He placed it in the center of the living room. It was one of the beach pictures, the one Mom loved most. Lily and Noah stood barefoot at sunset, holding hands, laughing so hard neither of them was looking at the camera. Across the bottom of the frame was a simple engraved plaque. Family is where every child belongs. Nobody said a word. Dad looked around the room. I wanted us to remember. He smiled gently. Not the mistake. He looked directly at Amanda. The lesson. Amanda quietly nodded. I'll never forget it. 6 months later, Dad called another family meeting. This time everyone was smiling before they even arrived. He unfolded a brochure across the dining table. So, he grinned. Who's ready for next summer? The kids rushed forward. It's bigger. It has pools. Look at the water slides. Dad laughed. We rented the whole place. Amanda looked confused. The whole place? He nodded. There wasn't a cabin big enough. So, He smiled proudly. I booked a family resort instead. Mom laughed. Every child gets their own bed. Josh grinned. No one's sleeping on couches this year. Daniel looked at me. I squeezed his hand. This was what healing looked like. Not pretending nothing had happened. Building something better because it had. On the first morning of that new family vacation, all the grandchildren lined up for a photograph. Someone asked who should stand in the middle. Dad smiled. No favorites. He waved all the children closer. Everybody squeezing. Lily grabbed Carter's hand. Noah wrapped an arm around his cousin's shoulder. Amanda watched quietly. Then she whispered to me, "Thank you." "For what?" "For not teaching your children to hate me." I looked at the kids laughing together. I never wanted revenge. She looked surprised. I wanted them to know their worth. She nodded slowly. I finally understand. Looking back now, people sometimes ask if I regret booking that trip. They expect me to say no because it was beautiful. Because the beaches were unforgettable. Because the kids still talk about the dolphins. But those aren't the reasons. I don't regret it because that vacation taught my children something I could never have explained with words. That when someone closes a door on you, you don't spend your life pounding on it. You build a better path, one that no one else controls. Amanda thought she was taking something away from my children. Instead, she accidentally gave us a memory that reshaped our family forever. And every summer since then, when I watch every cousin running toward the water together, I remember one simple truth. The greatest revenge isn't making someone feel the pain they caused you. It's creating a life so full of love, peace, and belonging that their decision no longer has the power to define your story.